Welcome to Billerica Public Library's Book Buzz November publications. Our first genre is contemporary fiction. Written in the Stars by Alexandria Belfour. After a disastrous blind date, Darcy Lowell is desperate to stop her well-meaning brother from playing matchmaker ever again. Love and heartbreak is the last thing she wants, so she fibs and says her latest setup was a success. Darcy doesn't expect her lie to bite her in the butt. Al Jones, one of the astrologers behind the popular Twitter account Oh My Stars, dreams of finding her soulmate. But she knows it is most assuredly not Darcy, a no-nonsense stick in the mud who is way too analytical, punctual, and skeptical for someone as free-spirited as Elle. When Darcy's brother and Elle's new business partner expresses how happy he is that they hit it off, Elle is baffled. Was Darcy on the same date? Because awkward. Darcy begs Elle to play along and she agrees to pretend they're dating, but with a few conditions. Darcy must help Elle navigate her own overbearing family during the holidays, and their arrangement expires on New Year's Eve. The last thing they expect is to develop real feelings during this phony relationship. But maybe opposites can attract when true love is written in the stars. Miss Benson's Beetle by Rachel Joyce. It is 1950. London is still reeling from World War II, and Marjorie Benson, a schoolteacher in Spencer, is trying to get through life surviving on scraps. One day, she reaches her breaking point, abandoning her job and small existence to set out on an expedition to the other side of the world in search of her childhood obsession. An insect that may or may not exist, the golden beetle of New Caledonia. When she advertises for an assistant to accompany her, the woman she ends up with is the last person she had in mind. Fun-loving Enid Pretty, in her tight-fitting pink suit and pom-pom sandals, seems to attract trouble wherever she goes. But together, these two British women find themselves drawn into a cross-ocean adventure that exceeds all expectations and delivers something neither of them expected to find: the power of friendship. The Little Cruelties by Liz Newton. All three of the Drum brothers were at the funeral, but only one of them was in the coffin. William, Brian, and Luke, three boys born a year apart, trained from birth by their wily mother to compete for her attention. They play games, as brothers do. Yet even after the Drums escape into a world beyond their windows, those games, those little cruelties, grew more sinister, more merciless, and more dangerous. And with their lives entwined like the strands of a noose, only two brothers will survive. Our second genre is fantasy. Spellbreaker by Charlie Holmberg. The orphan Elsie Camden learned as a girl that there are two kinds of wizards in the world: those who pay for the power to cast spells, and those, like her, born with the ability to break them. But as an unlicensed magic user, her gift is a crime. Commissioned by the underground group known as the Cowls, Elsie uses her spellbreaking to push back against the aristocrats and help the common man. She always did love the tale of Robin Hood. Elite magic user Brackus Kelsey is one elusive spell away from his mastership when he catches Elsie breaking an enchantment. To protect her secret, Elsie strikes a bargain. She'll help Brackus fix unruly spells around his estate if he doesn't turn her in. Working together, Elsie trust in and a fondness for the handsome stranger grows. So does her trepidation about the rise in the murders of wizards and the theft of the spell books their bodies leave behind. For a rogue spellbreaker like Elsie, there's so much to learn about her powers, her family, and the intriguing Brackus, and the untold dangers shadowing every step of a journey she's destined to complete. But will she uncover the mystery before it's too late to save everything she loves? The Awakening by Nora Roberts. When Breen Kelly was a girl, her father would tell her stories of magical places. Now she's an anxious 20-something mad in student debt and working at a job she hates. But one day she stumbles upon a shocking discovery. Her mother has been hiding an investment account in her name. It has been funded by her long-lost father, and it is worth nearly $4 million. The newfound fortune would be life-changing for anyone, but little does Breen know that when she uses some of the money to journey to Ireland, it will unlock mysteries she couldn't have imagined. Here, she will begin to understand why she kept seeing that silver-haired, elusive man, why she imagined his voice in her head saying, "Come home, Breen. It's time you came home." Why she dreamed of dragons, and where her true destiny lies, through a portal in Galway that takes her to a land of fairies and mermaids, to a man named Keegan, and to the courage in her own heart that will guide her through a powerful and dangerous destiny. The Way Back by Gabriel Savet. For the Jews of Eastern Europe, demons are everywhere, dancing on the rooftops in the darkness of midnight, congregating in the trees, howling the dead, and even reaching out to try to steal away the living. But the demons have a land of their own, a far country people with the souls of the transit dead, governed by the demonic dukes, barons, and earls. When the angel of death comes strolling through the little schilt of Tubac one night, two young people will be sent off on a journey through the far country. There they will make pacts with ancient demons, declare war on death himself, and maybe, just maybe, find a way to make it back alive. The Burning God by R.F. Khan. After saving her nation of Nikan from foreign invaders and battling the evil Empress Suja in a brutal civil war, Fang Ruin was betrayed by allies and left for the dead. Despite her losses, Rin hasn't given up on those for whom she has sacrificed so much. The people of the southern provinces, and especially Taikan, the village that is her home. Returning to her roots, Rin meets difficult challenges and unexpected opportunities. While her new allies in the Southern Coalition leadership are sly and untrustworthy, Rin quickly realizes that the real power in Nigun lies with the millions of common people who thirst for vengeance and revere her as a goddess of salvation. Backed by the masses in her southern army, Rin will use every weapon to defeat the Dragon Republic and the colonizing Hespians and all who threaten the arts and their practitioners. As her power and influence grows, though, will she be strong enough to resist the phoenix's intoxicating voice urging her to burn the world and everything in it? Fires of Vengeance by Even Winter. Tao and his queen, desperate to delay the impending attack on the capital by the indigenous people of Zaida, craft a dangerous plan. If Tao succeeds, the queen will have time she needs to assemble her forces and launch an all-out assault on her own capital city, where her sister is being propped up as the true queen of the Oma. If the city can be taken, if Tazara can reclaim her throne, and if she can reunite her people, then the Oma have a chance to survive the onslaught. Our third genre is science fiction. Norfolk Gloss by Essa Hansen. Caden's planet is destroyed, his family gone, and his only hope for survival is a crew of misfit aliens and a mysterious ship that seems to have a soul in a universe of its own. Together, they will show him that the universe is much bigger, much more advanced, and much more mysterious than Caden had ever imagined. But the universe hides dangers as well, and soon Caden has his own plans. He vows to do anything it takes to get revenge on the slavers who murdered his people and took away his home. To destroy their regime, he must infiltrate and dismantle them from the inside or die trying. Ready Player Two by Ernest Cline. Days after winning Oasis founder James Halliday's contest, Wade Watts makes a discovery that changes everything. Hidden within Halliday's vaults, waiting for his heir to find, lies a technological advancement that will once again change the world and make the Oasis 1,000 times more wondrous and addictive than even Wade dreamed possible. When it comes, a new riddle and a new quest, a last Easter egg from Halliday hinting at a mysterious prize. and an unexpected, impossibly powerful and dangerous new rival awaits, one who will kill millions to get what he wants. Wade's life and the future of the Oasis are again at stake, but this time the fate of humanity also hangs in the balance. Our fourth genre is suspense and mystery. The Butcher's Blessing by Ruth Gilligan. Every year, Una prepares for her father to leave her. He will wave goodbye early one morning, then disappear with 7 other men to travel the Irish countryside. Together, these men form the Butchers, a group that roams from farm to farm, enacting ancient methods of cattle slaughter. For Una, being a butcher's daughter means a life of tangled ambition and incredible loneliness. For her mother, Gar, it is a life of faith and longing, of performing a promise that she may or may not be able to keep. For non-believer Fionn, the butchers represent a dated and complicated reality, though for his son Davy, they represent an entirely new world and potentially a new love. For photographer Ronan, the butchers are ideal subjects, representatives of an older, more folkloric Ireland whose survival is now being tested. As he moves through the countryside, Ronan captures the world image by image, a lake, a cottage, and his most striking photo, a man hung upside down in a pose of unspeakable violence. Out of Her Mind by T.R. Ragan. Crime reporter Sawyer Brooks still grieves for the family she and her 2 sisters never had. Raised in a house of horrors, they continue to fight through the trauma, releasing their rage by seeking justice for those who were just as vulnerable as they were. When a little girl's bones are unearthed in Sacramento's Lamb Park and a 12-year-old Riley Addison disappears, solving these cases becomes an obsession for Sawyer, one that puts her job at risk. Yet she can't turn back, and the deeper Sawyer's investigation goes, the darker it gets. A psychopath is on the loose and has been trolling Sacramento for years, hiding in plain sight. The more Sawyer persists, the closer she gets to a disturbing place reminiscent of her own terrorized childhood. With time running out, Sawyer will risk anything to save Riley from the dark, but the killer will do anything to keep her there. You Will Never Know by S.A. Prentice. After a lifetime of hardship, Jessica Thornton finally has the life she has dreamed of, a new marriage to a successful realtor, a daughter whose athleticism has won her a scholarship to college, a freshly secured grant from her bank to finally complete her own higher education. Her life today is a complete reversal from the not-too-distant past, when the death of her first husband left her penniless and desperate to provide for her then newborn child. But after the murder of her child's high school classmate, a series of disturbances bring Jessica to question whether her dreams ever actually came true, or whether they'd just been delusions all along. In the days after the murder, suspicion creeps at every corner, beginning with Jessica's daughter and stepson, who won't tell her where they were on that fateful night. Then she discovers that her husband's business is failing, not growing, and that the stories he told of meetings with high-powered investors were nothing more than lies. And when a private investigator comes to look into the death of her first husband, her last foundation of the truth slips suddenly away. The Law of Innocence by Michael Conley. On the night he celebrates a big win, defense attorney Mickey Haller is pulled over by police, who find the body of a former client in the trunk of his Lincoln. Haller is immediately charged with murder, but can't post the $5 million bail slapped on him by a vindictive judge. Mickey elects to represent himself and is forced to mount his defense from his jail cell in the Twin Towers Correctional Center in downtown Los Angeles. All the while, he needs to look over his shoulder. As an officer of the court, he is an instant target, and he makes new friends when he reveals a corruption plot within the jail. But the bigger plot is the one against him. Haller knows he's been framed, whether by a new enemy or an old one. As his trusted team, including his half-brother Harry Bosch, investigates, Heller must use all of his skills in the courtroom to counter the damning evidence against him. Even if he can obtain a not guilty verdict, Mickey understands that that won't be enough. In order to be truly exonerated, he must find out who really committed the murder and why. That is the law of innocence. Deadly Cross by James Patterson. Kay Willingham led a life as glamorous as it was public. She was a gorgeous Georgetown socialite, philanthropist, and the ex-wife of the vice president. So why was she parked in a Bentley convertible, idling behind a DC private school in the middle of the night with the man who was the head of the school? Who shot them both, point blank, and why? The shocking double homicide is blazed across the internet, TV, newspapers, and across Alex Cross's mind. Kay had been his patient once, and maybe more. While John Sampson of DC Metro Police investigates the last moments of Christopher Randall, the educator killed along with Kay, Detective Alex Cross and FBI Special Agent Ned Mahoney find unanswered questions from Kay's past before she arrived in DC and became known in DC society as someone who could make things happen. They travel to Alabama to investigate Kay's early years. There they find a world of trouble, corruption, and secrets, all of them closed to the outsiders like Cross and Mahoney. Kay had many enemies, but all of them seemed to need her alive. The harder the investigators push, the more resistance they find when they leave behind the polite law offices and doctors' quarters of the state capitol. Alex Cross will need to use all of his skills as a doctor, a detective, and a family man to prevent that resistance from turning lethal again. The Kingdom by Joe Nesbro. Roy has never left the quiet mountain town he grew up in, unlike his little brother Carl, who couldn't wait to get out and escape his troubled past. Just like everyone else in town, Roy believed Carl was gone for good. But Carl has big plans for his hometown. And when he returns with a mysterious new wife and a business opportunity that seems too good to be true, simmering tensions began to surface, and unexplained deaths in the town's past come under new scrutiny. Soon, powerful players set their sights on taking the brothers down by exposing their role in the town's sordid history. But Roy and Carl are survivors and no strangers to violence. Roy has always protected his younger brother. As the body count rises, though, Roy's loyalty to family is tested, and then Roy finds himself drawn to Carl's wife, Shannon, an attraction that will have devastating consequences. Roy's world is coming apart, and soon there will be no turning back. He'll be forced to choose between his own flesh and blood and a future he had never dared to believe was possible. Hidden in Plain Sight by Jeffrey Archer. William Warwick has been promoted to detective sergeant, but his promotion means that he, along with the rest of his team, have been reassigned to the drug squad. They are immediately tasked with apprehending Kala Rashadi, a notorious drug dealer who operates his extensive network out of South London. As the investigation progresses, William runs into enemies old and new. Adrian Heath, from his school days, now a street dealer who he convinces to turn informer, and financier Miles Faulkner, who makes a mistake that could finally see him put behind bars. Meanwhile, William and his fiancée Beth enjoy making preparations for their upcoming wedding, though an unpleasant surprise awaits them at the altar. As William's team closes the net around a criminal network like none they had ever faced before, he devises a trap they would never expect, one that is hidden in plain sight. Murder in Old Bombay by Nev March. In 1892, Bombay is the center of British India. Nearby, Captain Jim Agahoti lies in a Pune military hospital recovering from a skirmish on the wild northern frontier. With little to do but reread tales of his idol, Sherlock Holmes, and browse the daily papers. The case that catches Captain Jim's attention is being called the crime of the century. Two women fall from a busy university's clock tower in broad daylight. Moved by Artie, the widower of one of the victims, his certainty that his wife and sister did not commit suicide. Captain Jim approaches the Parsi family and is hired to investigate what happened that terrible afternoon. But in a land divided loyalties, asking questions is dangerous. Captain Jin's investigation disturbs the shadows that seem to follow the Famji family and triggers an ominous chain of events. And when lively Lady Diana Famji joins the hunt for her sister's attackers, Captain Jim's heart isn't safe either. Robert Parker's Someone to Watch Over Me by Ace Atkins. 10 years ago, Spencer helped a teenage girl named Maddie Sullivan find her mother's killer and take down an infamous stealthy crime boss. Now Maddie, a college student with a side job working for the tough but tender private eye, dreams of being an investigator herself. Her first big case involves a 15-year-old girl assaulted by a much older man at one of Boston's most prestigious private clubs. The girl, Chloe Turner, only wants the safe return of her laptop and backpack. But like her mentor and boss, Maddie has a knack for asking the right questions of the wrong people. Soon, Spencer and Maddie find ties between the exploitation of dozens of other girls from working class families to an eccentric billionaire and a sadistic henchwoman with a mansion on Commonwealth Avenue. The mystery man's wealth, power, and connections extend well beyond Massachusetts, maybe even beyond the United States. Spencer and trusted ally Hawk must again watch out for Maddie as she unravels a massive sex trafficking ring that will take them from Boston to Boca Raton to the Bahamas, crossing paths with local toughs, a highly trained security company, and an old enemy of Spencer's, the Gray Man, for a final epic showdown. The Night of the Fire by KJELL ERIKSSON. Police Inspector Ann Lindell has left the Uppsala Police and is living a quiet life producing local cheese in a small town in Uppland. But life in the country is not as idyllic as it seems. On New Year's Eve, someone sets fire to the former village school, which is now a home for asylum seekers, and 3 people are killed. Ann Lindell's investigation instincts come back to life, and soon she takes on the case. She is contacted by a person who has been involved in previous investigation and who wants to warn her. His message is short and clear. Many will die. A few weeks later, a bomb explodes in a suburb of Stockholm. A Lady's Guide to Mischief and Mayhem by Amanda Collins. Newspaper columnist Lady Catherine Bascom finds herself the subject of speculation when her latest article leads to an arrest in the murders plaguing London. The English believe women ought not to write about such vulgar things as crime, and a particularly attractive detective inspector is incensed that she interfered with his investigation. To escape her sudden notoriety, Catherine heads to the country only to witness a murder upon her arrival. Detective Inspector Andrew Evesham is appalled when Lady Catherine entangles herself in one of his cases again. Her sensationalist reporting already nearly got him kicked off the police force, and he'll be damned if he permits her to meddle a second time. Yet her questions are awfully insightful, and he can't deny his attraction to both her beauty and brains. As the clues point to a dangerous criminal, the two soon realize their best option is working together. But with their focus on the killer lurking in the shadows, neither is prepared for the other risks the case poses to their hearts. One of Our Own by Jane Haddam. A mysterious black van is spotted by several people at various times in the area around Kavanaugh Street, Philadelphia's Armenian American enclave. Assumed by some to be related to the increasing ICE raids around the area, the mystery deepens one night when a body falls out of the back of the van when speeding through the neighborhood. Martha Wawowski, a reclusive older woman, is found bound up in a garbage bag after it falls out of the van. In a coma, Martha is unable to tell police how she ended up as she did. When they go to search her apartment, the police find the dead body of her building super, a man with whom she has a history of conflict. How did she end up in a garbage bag in the back of a mysterious van? How did he end up dead in her locked apartment? What does all of this have to do with real estate holdings of an infamous local developer, Carrie Alder? Gregor Demarkian, former FBI agent and consultant, is ready to retire. But he is pulled in once again for a final case to uncover the truth about the murder and attempted murder on Kavanaugh Street. Our fifth genre, memoirs. One Life by Megan Rapinoe. Only 4 years old when she kicked her first soccer ball, Megan developed a love and a clear talent for the game at a young age, but it was her parents who taught her that winning was much less important than how she lived her life. From childhood on, Megan always did what she could to stand up for what was right, even if it meant going up against people who disagreed. Here, for the first time, Megan reflects upon some of the most pivotal moments in her life and career. From her realization in college that she was gay, through the disputes with soccer coaches and officials over her decision to kneel, to the first time she met her now fiancé, WNBA champion Sue Bird, and up through suing the U.S. Soccer Federation over gender discrimination and equal pay. Throughout, Megan makes clear the obligation we all have to speak up and an impact each of us have on our communities. Deeply personal and inspiring, Our Life reveals the real concrete change lies within all of us and asks if we all have the same resource, this one precious life, made up of the decisions we make every day, what are you going to do? I Want to Be Where the Normal People Are by Rachel Bloom. Rachel Bloom has felt abnormal and out of place her whole life. In this exploration of what she thinks makes her different, she comes to realize that a lot of people also feel this way, even people who she otherwise thought were normal. In a collection of laugh out loud funny essays, all told in the unique voice, sometimes singing voice, that made her a star, Rachel writes about everything from her the love of Disney, OCD and depression, weirdness, spank, to the story of how she didn't poop in the toilet until she was 4 years old. Rachel's pieces are hilarious, smart, and infinitely relatable. We Keep the Dead Close by Becky Cooper. 1969, the height of counterculture and the year universities would seek to curb the unruly spectacle of student protest. The winter that Harvard University would begin the process of merging with Radcliffe, its all-female sister school, and the year that Jane Britton, an ambitious 23-year-old graduate student in Harvard's anthropology department, and the daughter of Radcliffe Vice President J. Boyd Britton, would be found bludgeoned to death in her Cambridge, Massachusetts apartment. 40 years later, Becky Cooper, a curious undergrad, will hear the first whispers of the story. In the first telling, the body was nameless. The story was this: a Harvard student had an affair with her professor, and the professor had murdered her in the Peabody Museum of Archaeology because she threatened to talk about the affair. Though the rumor proves false, the story that unfolds, one that Cooper will follow for 10 years, is even more complex, a tale of gender equality in academia, a cowboy culture among empowered male elites, and the silencing effect of institutions and our compulsion to rewrite the stories of female victims. The Best of Me by David Sedaris. For more than 25 years, David has been carving out a unique literary space, virtually creating his own genre. A Sedaris story may seem confessional, but it's also highly attuned to the world outside. It opens our eyes to what is funny and moving about our daily existence, and it is almost impossible to read without laughing. Now, for the first time collected in one volume, the author brings us his funniest and most memorable work. But if all you expect to find in Sedaris's work is the deft and sharply observed comedy from which he became renowned, you may be surprised to discover that his words bring more warmth than mockery, more fellow feeling than derision. Nowhere is this clearer than in his writing about his loved ones. In these pages, Sedaris explores falling in love and staying together, recognizing his own aging, not in the mirror, but in the faces of his siblings, losing one parent and coming to terms at long last with the other.